What's going on, guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the 10th Doctor David Tennant story, The End of Time. We will be reviewing parts 1 and 2 of The End of Time here, so yeah, both episodes in one video, as we do with pretty much all two-parters. So yeah, this is of course the 10th Doctor's final story, The End of Time parts 1 and 2. It is a big finale. You know, we've got the Master coming back. We've got, spoiler alert, we've got the Time Lords coming back. It is a big story, and it is the end of David Tennant's 10th Doctor. So anyway, let's get started with the cast. David Tennant as the 10th Doctor. So David Tennant, I mean, he's great in this one. He is, of course, great. And I mean, we'll talk about Bernard Cribbins in a moment, but his chemistry with Bernard is so good. Really wanted to see more of these two on screen because they are so good together. And David Tennant is giving it his all in this final episode. Now, I mean, we're not getting into the nitty gritty of the episode yet, but I will say The End of Time in general is not my favorite story. There are part of it that I like that other people maybe don't like, but then there's a lot of stuff in here, just the general story, that is not my favorite. But even then, David is still doing a phenomenal job. He's still playing the role just as good as he ever did, and it's a pleasure as always to see him on screen for, well, this final time as the 10th Doctor, although he then comes back as the 10th Doctor in The Day of the Doctor, and then of course plays the 14th Doctor later on, so we've still got plenty more of David Tennant to come. Bernard Cribbins as Wilfred Mott. So yeah, Wilfred Mott is the main companion for this story, Donna's granddad, and he is so good. Rest in peace to Bernard Cribbins. He was such a great actor, and in Doctor Who is so good. I mean, Wilfred Mott is such a great character that I just wish we had more of. And it's crazy because originally he wasn't even going to be, you know, in the series. Donna's, well, what was originally Donna's dad, a guy played him in The Runaway Bride. He then, I'm not sure if he wasn't available in the future or if he maybe passed away, but instead they got in Wilfred Mott to play her granddad, and yeah, the rest is history. Bernard Cribbins does such a great job. He's such a good actor. His chemistry is great with everything. He's so good at the serious moments, you know, the crying that he does in this episode and the emotions that he pours out is unbelievable. But then he has the funny little moments as well of him doing a little dance and, you know, joking around with the Doctor. He has everything. I absolutely love Bernard Cribbins, and I love the character of Wilfred Mott. Alright, let's get into this because there is a lot to get into with this two-parter. Starting off, of course, with part 1. The Doctor seeing the return of the Master through the Ood. So the episode starts with the Doctor. He knows that the end of his time's coming. You know, there's been, you know, the whole knock 4 times thing in Planet of the Dead. There's just been a lot of things here and there about, you know, he's coming to the end of his time. He went too far in the borders of Mars, you know, and that was an omen to him to say, this is going to be the end for me. So he knows that's happening, and he's basically going on a little bit of a, you know, a holiday before he dies. But then he comes across Ood Sigma and ends up going with all the natural Ood and basically gets this kind of vision of the Master. And yeah, he doesn't know what's going on because he's like, he's dead, what is going on here? And that, you know, he goes from being jolly and happy and, you know, like he is at the start of the episode, you know, trying to lock his TARDIS with a car key, which is a very interesting moment. I kind of find it funny. I think some people find it a bit too silly. I quite like it. And then he goes from that to, yeah, absolutely terrified that the Master is back. How is any of the Master's DNA still on Lucy's lips? Now, this is one thing I really don't understand. This thing with the Master now, some people really don't like John Simm's Master. I like his Master. He was maybe not the first Master I ever saw. I probably had seen Roger Delgado and Anthony Ainley at least once before this. Definitely seen Anthony Ainley because I had seen the 5 Doctors before originally watching this story. Definitely. And I probably had seen some Roger Delgado as well. But he was the first, John Simm was the first Master that I properly knew. And although he was a bit wacky, I quite like him in, like, you know, Last of the Time Lord, Sound of Drums. He's a bit wacky, but I like him. In this one, he has some good stuff going on, but the things they do with his character, I don't love. Now, we'll get into that a little bit later, but how he comes around is a bit strange. Basically, they find, like, they have, like, something in, like, a ring or something that, I don't know, has his, like, soul in it. and then the only thing they need, they throw this ring into the fire, and now the only thing they need is a bit of his DNA, and then they can bring him back to life. And oh, they've got Lucy, his wife, and they wipe her lips, and there you go. There's DNA from him. Now he's been dead for years, I think, by this point, quite a while at least. And but apparently there's still DNA on him, on her lips, which I don't understand at all. Like, has she not showered in however long? Like, what? I just don't get it. I mean, maybe there's some real deep DNA in there, but like, you're not gonna get that off with just a wipe of a tissue, So don't understand that. Think it's a little bit ridiculous. The Master is back, but he's mutated and gone insane. So yeah, this is the whole thing with the Master. I mean, the Master was already a little bit wacky and crazy in Last of the Time Lords, Sound of Drums, but here he's even more insane, wacky and crazy. And it's supposedly because, the whole thing happened with Lucy and the lips and trying to bring him back to life, but then she had a plan all along or something, and I don't understand that either. It's like she knew this was going to happen and she had people there like ready to help her out, and all very convenient, and it doesn't really make any sense. But yeah, basically it all went wrong, it all blew up, and the Master did come back to life, but he's not like he should be. He's all mutated, he is really hungry, he's basically like feeding off of energy, and he can jump super high, he turns into a skeleton, he's basically a superhero, which I don't really like, I'll be honest. The Doctor's emotional conversation with Wilf about dying. So, yeah, by this point, the Doctor knows that the Master's back. I'm not sure if he's found him yet. He may have, I can't quite remember, but I don't think he has by this point. But he knows that the Master's around. He's trying to find him and trying to figure out what's going on here. And he bumps into Wilf, and they have a conversation in a little cafe. And yeah, the Doctor starts crying, he starts getting really emotional, he's like, I'm gonna die. The Wilf's like, I'm gonna as well at some point. And it's just a really emotional, but also very touching scene. And yeah, I think it's great. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the emotional stuff with the Doctor. And I guess it's a bit much here and there. And I mean, I didn't like it with Ncudi's Doctor where he was crying all the time, but we didn't see David's Doctor crying all the time. There's quite a bit of it in this story. Well, it's really only that one bit, and I guess right at the end a little bit as well. But yeah, I just love that scene with Wilf. I think if it wasn't with Wilf, I wouldn't like it. But because it's with Wilf and the chemistry they have together, I just love the scene. Wilf keeps seeing this woman who knows about the Doctor. So yeah, Wilf originally he sees this woman in a church. But then she kind of just disappears and nobody else seems to know that she's there. She keeps appearing on the TV, but nobody else sees her on the TV. Whenever anybody else looks at the TV and he looks back, she's not there anymore. And yeah, it's very strange. She knows about the Doctor. She's seemingly trying to help Wilf, but is being very cagey about everything. It's very strange. We never really learn who this woman is. There's theories that it's like the Doctor's mum, or like, he's like auntie or some sort of relative somewhere. But yeah, it is quite strange. Joshua wants to use this immortality gate to make his daughter immortal. So this is I'm not going to say subplot, because I mean, it kind of builds into the main plot. But basically, this guy Joshua, who is, I don't know, he's some rich dude. There's not really much more than that. He's like an author or something. I don't know. I don't really like his character or his daughter's character. They're just kind of nothing characters, to be honest. But they have somehow got this immortality gate thing, and yeah, like dropped from a spaceship or something. I don't know. I think they do explain that, but I can't quite remember. But they've got this gate, but they can't get it to work. They know it's an immortality gate apparently, but they don't know how to use it and how to fix it. And they managed to get hold of the Master and basically say, we want you to fix this gate because he wants to make his daughter immortal forever and ever and ever. And it's, I don't know, it's a bit cheesy, it's a bit silly. The Master uses the gate to turn everyone into him. Now, I'm very split on this part of the plot because on one hand, I think the Master race thing, everybody's the Master, they're called the Master race. I think that's brilliant. I love that. But the visual of everybody's heads flickering around and then turning into John Sim. And then, although it's kind of funny, the scene where, there's just Masters John Sims everywhere and they're all waving at each other, and it's pretty funny, but it's also very silly. So I don't really know how I feel about this thing. On one hand, I like the concept. I think that's what it is. I think I like the concept. I don't quite like how it actually turned out. The Time Lords are back. So throughout this whole story, we've had a narrator in the background, and that's been Timothy Dalton, who is, we now find out, is playing Rassilon, the leader of the Time Lords, basically. And yeah, the Time Lords are back. They are trying to come back, of course, from the Time War. They've basically been shoved in a time lock, and they want to come back into reality. And that is pretty much the setup for the second part. So the Time Lords are returning, a big thing, and yeah, it's a pretty big deal, and it's a big cliffhanger. So on to the End of Time Part 2. It didn't matter that Donna remembered because she had a defense mechanism. Once again, this is another thing that I'm like, oh, we're basically retconning what's come before. Well, not retconning it, but like we're changing what things have been said before just because we want a fun little, we want to see Donna again, and we want a cool little cliffhanger and a crazy moment. And basically, yeah, Donna starts remembering her times with the Doctor, and we've all heard in the past that if Donna remembers, she will burn up and she will die. In this case, she doesn't. She remembers, she kind of blows up, but it turns out it's just a defense mechanism, and now she's actually just kind of asleep, and she'll wake up soon and won't remember anything again. So it's kind of like, and the Doctor's like, oh, well, you didn't think I'd leave my friend without a defense mechanism, would you? What do you mean? Like, without a defense mechanism? Like, you had to wipe her mind and do this thing to her because she was going to die otherwise. And you said that if she remembers again, she will die. Not, oh, well, if she does remember again, we'll at least give her a chance. We'll give her this little defense mechanism. No, it seems way too... It just seems way too easy, The Doctor being wheeled to safety. So I love this moment. The Master, they managed to trick the Master because the two cactus people, I can't remember what they're called now. They Vinvoci, I think, are the race that they're called. They don't get turned into the Master. They end up saving the Doctor and knocking out the Master, but the Doctor's like strapped up in a chair, and they end up wheeling him away in this really funny scene. It's a little bit too comedic and silly in some ways, but I do still quite like it. I think it's quite funny. The Time Lords send a white point star to Earth to make a link so they can return from the time lock. So once again, this is another thing of, oh, it's a bit convenient, but I do quite like this. I mean, on one hand, it doesn't really make sense. They basically have like a 3D map of Earth, and they throw this, Rassilon throws this white point star, which is, a diamond that can only be found on Gallifrey. He throws it into this 3D picture, and it ends up appearing on Earth. Now, maybe they've got the technology to do that. It's a bit convenient, but it's okay. I think it's a cool enough visual, and it's a cool enough concept, and you've got to figure out some way of bringing Gallifrey into this, and I think that's an okay way of doing it. Another emotional scene between the Doctor and Wilf. So this is the scene in the ship when they've gone up in the ship, or they've teleported to the ship, and they turn all the power off so that the Master can't see them and shoot missiles at them, and they're just basically floating dead in space. And yeah, the Doctor and Wilf have this really emotional moment talking about war and, how Wilf was in the war. He's got this gun with him, but he never actually killed anyone. And he's trying to hand the gun to the Doctor to say, kill the Master, because the Doctor's like, the Master's going to kill me. Wilf's like, we'll kill him first. And the Doctor just keeps pushing this gun away. And it's just such an emotional moment. This is where Wilf has his crying moment, and it is so emotional. But then when the Doctor finds out that the Time Lords are coming back, then he grabs the gun, and it completely changes everything. Why would the Master want to bring the Time Lords back after making everyone him? Now, I've put this point down. I kind of somewhat disagree with what I've put there. I mean, on one hand, yes, he's literally just made everybody him because he thinks he is the best in the world and everybody should be him. It would be a better world, a better universe. But now the Time Lords are back, and he has helped bring the Time Lords back on purpose. So why would he do that when everybody's him now? So why would he want these Time Lords here who, will most certainly have power over him? Well, I think it was because, and I think he actually does say this in the episode, he brings the Time Lords back and he expects the Time Lords to basically now worship him because, hey, I've brought you guys back into reality, so you should now worship me. Of course, that was never going to happen, and he should have known that. But I do kind of go against my point there of why would he do that. I can kind of understand why he would do it now. Wilf shooting missiles. This is a fun little moment. They finally turn the ship back on, and the Master starts shooting missiles at them. So the man, Vin Voce guy, whatever he is, Vin Voce might have been what Banner Cafalata was. I can't remember. But the green cactus people, he is on one of the missiles, Wilf's on the other missile, and they have a great little moment of just shooting at missiles, and Wilf looks like he's having an absolute blast. How did the Doctor survive that fall? Yeah, we have the Doctor's, he jumps out of the ship to confront the Master and the Time Lords, and yeah, he falls very, very far through a glass ceiling, a glass roof, and onto the floor, but he's fine. He's all right. I mean, he's a bit wounded. He's got scratches all over his face, but he's able to get up, and he's alive. And I don't really understand why or how. Gallifrey itself is now next to Earth. So of course the Time Lords came back with the White Point Star, but the big thing was that they're not going to stop with just them coming back. They're going to bring the whole planet back. So basically Gallifrey is in the same orbit, the same place as Earth. And that's of course a big problem. The Doctor aiming the gun between the Master and Rassilon. So the Doctor finally takes arms and he points at the Master, but then the Master has a little bit of a chat with him, and then he points it at Rassilon and the Time Lords, and then he has a bit of a chat and he keeps swapping back and forth. It is a little bit silly and it's a bit meme worthy how every time he turns around to point at a different person, he kind of recocks the gun. It's like you wouldn't recock the gun every time you turn around. It's just, it makes it a bit more epic and a bit more tense with that, but it doesn't really logically make any sense. But I do like the moment where, he's switching between the two of them. The Master sides with the Doctor in the end. So I love this. Some people probably think it's a bit cheesy. Yes, it is a bit cheesy, but when the Doctor's doing the back and forth with the gun and he points at the Master and it looks like he's going to shoot, and then he's like, get out of the way, and he shoots the machine to send the Time Lords back into hell, I think is what he ends up saying. However, then Rassilon's like, well, if we're going to go down, you're coming down with me. And the Doctor's like, yep, I know that, but that's the price I was willing to take. But then the Master, with his built up electric energy, he then goes, get out of the way to the Doctor, in a complete reversal of what happened before. And yeah, he starts shooting at Rassilon and basically sides with the Doctor and yeah, sacrifices himself, kind of to save the Doctor, but also because he's just so annoyed at what happened with the Time Lords that he wants to be the one to finish them off this time. The Doctor's meltdown about saving Wilf. So this is a big moment that a lot of people hate about this episode. Wilf gets trapped in that machine, and it's going to get completely flooded with radiation, and that is the reason why the Doctor dies. He doesn't die from the Master or the Time Lords. It's the 4 knocks on the glass of that machine from Wilf that's what's going to kill him. I love that as a concept. How the 4 knocks is Wilf this whole time. I mean, it makes so much sense. But yeah, the Doctor has a bit of a meltdown, and I do agree that it is a bit too overdramatic, and he really starts yelling and throwing paper around and having a go at Wilf. But in the end, he's like, it is my honor to save you, even after Wilf's like, no, don't save me. I like that at the end with the Doctor, how he says it like that, but he has just had a massive tantrum, so it's not really excusable. The Doctor's farewell tour, another part of the episode that a lot of people hate, when he goes around and says goodbye to everyone. Now, I don't. It's like in Journey's End, where, you have the whole thing with everybody there and the goodbyes and stuff. I don't mind it. It does go on for quite a long time, I will be honest, but it is a good chunk of the episode. But I quite like it because I like this era. This is my favourite era of the show. So saying goodbye to all these characters, I think is a pretty cool thing. And then the final point is, of course, the Doctor regenerating. He regenerates in the TARDIS, that I don't want to go. I know some people hate it. I think it's emotional. I love this Doctor. I like the whole, I let you. No, what was it? No, I Let You Go. That was Peter Capaldi. I Don't Want to Go. I like it. Yes, it's a bit too silly, but whatever. And then, yeah, we then have Matt Smith as the 11th Doctor. So there we have it. That is my review for The End of Time. A long one. This is probably the longest one I've had so far. Just a lot to talk about in this one. A rating out of 10, though, for The End of Time. So both parts together, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of... No, I'm going to give it a 6. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, actually. I think part 2 is considerably better than part 1. But yes, the stuff at the end goes on for a bit too long, and there are a few things in there that I don't love. Part 1 for me is just more of a mess though, because you have a lot more of the silly stuff with the master jumping around, and I don't like that stuff. And just generally, there's a lot more stuff in part 1 that I dislike. But as a whole, I mean, it's fine. Considering how much I love this era and how much I praise this era, it's not quite the end to the era that I would have liked. It is definitely a bit of a drab end. It's one of the weaker stories of this era, to be completely honest with you. But I don't think it's terrible. A 6 out of 10 for The End of Time. But anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.